Very warm good morning to the honorable judges. We have with us today Honorable Justice Deepak Gupta sir, former Judge, Supreme Court of India. We have with us also Honorable Mr. Justice Tarlok Singh Chauhan sir, Judge and Acting Chief Justice, Himachal Pradesh High Court, and also the Chancellor of the University, HPNLU Shimla. We also have with us Honorable Chandrabhushan Barowalia sir, who is the Lokayukta state of Himachal Pradesh, and other honorable judges from the High Court of Himachal Pradesh, including we have with us today the director of Himachal Pradesh Judicial Academy and members from the bar and bench. To the beloved students and to other guests and faculty members, a very warm good morning to all of you. I'll not take a lot of time because we have an immensely insightful day scheduled ahead of us with the lecture. So I request Honorable Vice Chancellor Madam and Registrar Sir to please guide the honorable guests in lighting of the lamp and also to felicitate the honorable dignitaries, ma'am, to begin with the lighting of the lamp. I most humbly request all the dignitaries to please assemble for the lighting of the lamp. Honorable Mr. Justice Vivek Thakur sir, ma'am, Honorable Chandrabhushan Barowalia, we have with us Honorable Madam Justice Jyotsana Rewal, Madam. And now I also request Honorable BC Ma'am and Registrar Sir to felicitate foremostly the chief guest and who is going to address the lecture today, Honorable Mr. Justice Deepak Gupta sir, and I request Ruchi ma'am and Sunana ma'am to assist. It's interesting that Justice Deepak Gupta sir requested that as a token of gratitude, books be gifted to him. And now, Honorable Justice Tarlok Singh Chauhan sir. Now I request the dignitaries to please move to the dais and take their respective seats, sir and madam. And I also request all the students to please stand up for the Colgate.
हिमाचल प्रदेश राष्ट्र विधि विश्वविद्यालय विश्व गुरु बनना है क्यों न गुरूर करे हिमालय से ऊंचा मस्तक जिसका दूरदर्शिता आसमान की परतें चिरे हवाएं झूम झूम नाम ले जिसका बर्फ कोमलता में दृढ़ता भरे देवित्य विधि के हर विधान की मस्तक झुके कर वेदी है संविधान की प्यार करे शक्ति शासन के प्राण की और अपने भारत देश महान की तथ्य से अवगत करा तत्व अंगीकृत कराए तर्क को अंगीभूत करा वितर्क की पूर्ण आहुति डलवाए कहता है हर युवा यहाँ लेखनी और वाणी वीर बने कानूनी मदद का दरिया बहा वाद विवाद प्रतिद्वंदी बने इनके आंचल से चुरा सब दी चलाओ न्यायालय संस्कारों से मिटाए अन्याय श्वेत श्याम वर्दी ख्याति बढ़े देवभूमि की जिससे न्याय की देवी का रूप सजा जहां स्थापित करे सिंहासन सुनहरा कुंदन बन संवरे विद्यार्थी यहाँ सारे जग में एक होना हिमाचल प्रदेश राष्ट्र विधि विश्वविद्यालय विश्व गुरु बनना है क्यों ना गुरूर करें
Request the faculty members as well to please take the seats. and the students as well to take their respective seats. As we have gathered here for the third HPNLU via Krishna Iyer annual lecture series, I am equally reminded of the two lectures that we have had already. And the first one to begin with was delivered by Honorable Justice Surikant Sir, and the second was delivered by Honorable Justice Rama Subramanian Sir. So instead of making it more formal, only yesterday, few of us faculty members were outside the reception, and we were just trying to identify uh, why we need to pay homage to Justice Iyer through these lecture series. And there was a term that came into our discussion, and the term was uh, humanistic element of justice, which was, in a way, it would be safe to say that he was the flag bearer of the humanistic element of justice. Now, there is a book which has been written by uh, a psychoanalyst called Eric Fromm, and the name of the book is called Man for Himself. And in that book, he has categorically distinguished between two kinds of ethics. One he refers it to as the authoritarian ethics, and the second he calls it the humanistic ethics. I'll just read a very small excerpt from his book just to put it into perspective as to what humanistic ethics is. He writes, humanistic ethics is anthropocentric, not of course in the sense that man is the center of the universe, but in the sense that his value judgments, man's value judgments, like all other judgments, and even perceptions, are rooted in the peculiarities of his existence. Against this position, it has been argued that it is in the very nature of ethical behavior to be related to something transcending man. So when he talks about humanistic ethics, he's also making reference to Immanuel Kant's transcendental ethics. Without much ado, I most humbly request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Madam Professor Priti Saxena, to please deliver the welcome address, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Ayush. Very good morning to all the present in this hall. Honorable Mr. Justice Deepak Gupta ji, former Judge, Supreme Court of India, the distinguished speaker of the third Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer Memorial Lecture Series. I feel privileged to have you, sir, in this campus. I welcome you, and I am very grateful that you have accepted our invitation to deliver this special lecture. Welcome, sir. I am honored to welcome Honorable Mr. Justice Tarlok Singh Chauhan ji, the Acting Chief Justice of the Himachal Pradesh High Court, and the Honorable Chancellor of National Law University, Himachal Pradesh, Shimla. It is my privilege to welcome you, sir, and my gratitude for accepting our invitation to preside over this session. Welcome, sir. I welcome all the honored guests from the High Court, Honorable Mr. Justice Vivek Singh Thakur, Madam Vivek Singh Thakur. I welcome Honorable Ms. Justice Jyotsana Rewal from the High Court of Himachal Pradesh. I also welcome the Lokayukta Himachal Pradesh, Honorable Mr. Justice C.B. Barowalia, Honorable Mr. Justice P.S. Rana, Chairperson of the Himachal Pradesh State Human Rights Commission. I welcome you, sir. I welcome Shri Kapil Sood ji, the Senior Advocate, High Court of Himachal Pradesh and Member Governing Council of HPNLU Shimla. Shri Yogesh Jaswalji, Director, Himachal Pradesh Judicial Academy, the Deputy Director also, Shri Peeyush Verma ji, Senior Advocate, Himachal Pradesh High Court. I welcome my esteemed faculty members, dear students, and all the officials of the HPNLU. It is with great pleasure and a profound sense of honor that I welcome you all to this Justice B.R. Krishna Iyer Memorial Lecture, third lecture of the series, dedicated to the theme, The Humane Side of Justice. The human side of justice emphasizes empathy, compassion, and fairness in legal proceedings. It seeks not only to uphold the law, but also to understand individual circumstances and prioritize rehabilitation over punishment. By considering social and personal context, justice becomes a tool for healing rather than harm. This approach promotes respect for human dignity and aims to build a more inclusive and supportive society. In the words of Justice Krishna Iyer himself, I quote, the courts to have a constituency that is the nation and the manifesto constitution, unquote. Today, we gather not only to celebrate the remarkable life and legacy of Justice Iyer, a towering figure in our judicial history, but also to reflect on the vital role that compassion and humanity play in the pursuit of justice. Justice Iyer, a beacon of hope and an advocate for the marginalized, taught us that justice is not merely a set of legal principles, it is fundamentally about the people, their rights, dignity, and the pursuit of justice. He believed that the law should serve humanity and that justice must be accessible to all, regardless of their socio-economic conditions. He believed that the law should serve humanity and that justice must be accessible to all. As we honor Justice Krishna Iyer's legacy, let us also reaffirm our commitment to a justice system that is not only fair but also humane. In a world where the scales of justice often seem tipped, we must strive to ensure that our legal practices reflect the core values of compassion and equality. Recently, on 5th November, the Supreme Court, on the issue of the material resources of the community under Article 39B of the Constitution of India, in this Property Owners Association versus State of Maharashtra, I find the noteworthy decision of the dissenting by Honorable Mr. Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia, where he says, I quote, Justice Krishna Iyer doctrine is familiar to all who have anything to do with law or life. It is based on the strong humanist principles of fairness and equity. It is a doctrine which has illuminated our path in dark times. And so once again, I welcome you, sir, to this occasion as our illustrious speaker. And we hope that you'll be sharing your insights and experiences, helping us to understand the complexities of justice in our society. I would extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our guests for joining us today and those who have worked tirelessly to organize this important event. Together, let us engage in meaningful dialogue that upholds Justice Iyer's vision for a more just and human society. Thank you and welcome to this significant occasion.
I think calling the two terms as synonymous, humane, humanistic, and Justice Iyer would not be any exaggeration. They all stand at the same footing. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the welcome address. We have developed a very small footage on the glimpses of the contributions of Justice Iyer towards the Indian judiciary, the legal fraternity, and academia. I request Anupji to please play the video for us.
Welcome to a tribute to Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, a legal luminary, a crusader for social justice and environment, and a doyen of civil liberties whose life exemplified justice, compassion, and commitment to the marginalized. Born in 1950 in a small town of Vaidyanathapuram in Kerala, Justice Krishna Iyer's journey from a young advocate to one of India's most celebrated Supreme Court judges is inspiring. Justice Krishna Iyer's career began as an advocate in 1938, where he worked tirelessly to represent the underprivileged. Early on, he advocated for the rights of tenant farmers struggling under oppressive landlords and fought for the labor rights against the exploitation by feudal lords who had the support of colonial regime. When he protested against the torture by the police as an interrogation method, he was imprisoned for a month on a fabricated charge of giving legal assistance to the communists. His legal battles in his hometown were more than cases, they were campaigns for the equality and dignity. His passion for justice, equality, and upliftment of marginalized communities was among the chief reasons for his ministerial candidature during the first communist government in Kerala in 1957. Here, he introduced the groundbreaking welfare legislation that focused on the land reforms. Justice Krishna Iyer was appointed to the Supreme Court of India, where he served until 1980s. His tenure transformed Indian jurisprudence. He was a vocal advocate for prison reform, environmental protection, and the rights of marginalized communities. He played an important role in an era of judicial activism, public interest litigations, affirmative actions through courts, and a wide-ranging exercise of judicial review for which Indian judiciary is hailed throughout the world today. One of his most famous rulings came in Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India case, where he expanded the definition of personal liberty under Article 21, ensuring that due process became an integral part of Indian law. From his judgment in Charles Shobraj versus Superintendent Central Jail serves as a sample to his unconventional language, and I quote, "We affirm that imprisonment does not spell farewell to the fundamental rights, although by a realistic appraisal, courts will refuse to recognize the full panoply of Part 3 enjoyed by a free citizen." Unquote. Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer often emphasized a guiding principle. Quote, "The law of all laws is that the rule of law must sustain the rule of life." Unquote. He believed that the law must step down from its pedestal to address real-world needs and evolving aspirations of the society. Though his tenure in Supreme Court was brief, his impact on the public and legal system remains profound. He was a prolific writer, producing several books and articles that continue to serve as a reference for lawyers, for students, and social activists. In his article titled "Who Will Judge the Judges?", published by The Hindu, Justice Iyer made an appeal to the Parliament in following words, and I quote, "Parliament should wake up and implement glasnost and perestroika in judiciary. In the name of independence, we cannot have judicial absolutism and tyranny." Unquote. His writings explored the nexus between law and society, offering insights into how legal system could serve the common good. In his later years, he focused on the social issues, supporting the rights of elderly, the poor, and those on the fringes of society. Krishna Iyer's speeches and writing continue to inspire activists and legal minds alike, reminding us of a world where the law must be just and humane. He was conferred with Padma Vibhushan in 1999 by the President of India, K.R. Narayanan. Even after his passing in 2014, Justice Krishna Iyer's legacy remains alive. His ideas continue to influence India's legal system, shaping it to be more humane, just, and inclusive. He was a judge, a reformer, and above all, a voice for justice. Today, we remember him not just as a legal scholar, but as a champion of fairer world.
The video was edited by Singh, and the voiceover was done by Dr. Praveen Kumar, Assistant Professor of Management at HPNLU. I think there cannot be a more converging introduction than what we just heard about Krishna Iyer sir, because on one hand, when we call Krishna Iyer sir as being very humanistic in his approach towards justice, I'm reminded of Nussbaum, Martha Nussbaum, feminist philosopher, and she talks about an all-encompassing vision of justice, which refers to the idea that justice is not only for us living organisms, it includes the non-living, and within that parameter, it also includes the environment. And on that note, we today have with us Honorable Justice Deepak Gupta sir, whose common name, if you would not know, was also the Green Judge, sir, if I'm not mistaken. And I wouldn't want to give any longer introduction than that, sir, because I'm fearful that I might make some error. So, on that short note, sir, I request you to please deliver today's lecture. So, can I have a round of applause for that?
A very good morning to all of you. It's always a pleasure to be back in Shimla, and especially among students, one feels much younger. And I have played an indirect part in the establishment of this university, because the land for the Judicial Academy was selected by me, and that is how the university is now next to the academy. And also, I chaired the committee which selected the first Vice Chancellor of this university. So I have a close connect with the university, and it was giving me great pleasure that the organizers thought it fit to invite me to deliver this lecture. Honorable Justice Tarlok Chauhan, Acting Chief Justice of the High Court of Himachal Pradesh, and a close friend of mine for more than 30 years now, maybe 40, yeah. Dr. Priti Saxena, Vice Chancellor of the university, and I welcome you to this university and hope we will have many other programs where we can interact with each other. Justice Vivek Singh Thakur and Justice Jyotsana Rewal, who I've known since their time in the bar when they used to appear before me and even before that. Extremely brilliant judges. Justice C.B. Barowalia, another old friend, known him for 40 years almost. And Justice Rana, with whom I appeared before when he was additional district judge at Sood. I don't know if he remembers, but I do remember that. My senior mentor and guide, Mr. Sood, I would not be here but for him. Mr. Rewal, Director of the HP Judicial Academy. Peeyush Verma, President of the HP High Court Bar Association. Also, somebody I've known for very, very long. I've known his father. His father was senior sub-judge at Shimla when I started practice. And the association is very long. Mr. S.S. Deswal, Registrar of the University and members of the faculty. And above all, my dear friends, members who are the students of this university. I was recently listening to a talk by Javed Akhtar, where he speaks beautifully, and he said, जो हटके काम करते हैं, जो अलग एक दिशा दिखाते हैं, those are the people who are remembered in it. There have been many brilliant judges, probably many brilliant judges who were more brilliant than Justice Krishna Iyer. But he did something which was different. He went away from the routine. He charted new paths, and that is why even today we remember him. He can be best described as the Bhisham Pitama of the Indian judiciary. And therefore, it's a great honor and privilege for me to be asked to deliver this third lecture in the series dedicated to him. However, I will not be talking only about Justice Krishna Iyer and his judgments while talking on the topic. I will be talking about one other judge also, who I feel left a mark. Justice Krishna Iyer was a multifaceted personality. This little movie which you saw showed some of it. You may not know that he was an independent MLA in the undivided state of Madras. And after Kerala after the reorganization in 56, Kerala became a separate state. Kerala had the first elected communist government in the world. Nowhere had a communist government been elected by vote, and he was a member of that government. And then after a few years, he was appointed a judge in the High Court of Kerala. Within 5 short years, he was only High Court judge for 5 years when he was brought to the Supreme Court in the year 83, I'm not sure, 78. So 73, sorry. He came to the Supreme Court in 73. So this was in 5 short years he came. Whenever one talks of Justice Krishna Iyer, as he put it very, and as also the Vice Chancellor put it very succinctly, you talk of humanity, you don't think of anything else. You talk of equity, you talk of good conscience, you talk of fairness, you talk of these things. And that is why I had no trouble in choosing my topic to be the human side of justice. He delivered a large number of them. Very prolific judgment writer, and his judgments were in language which was, you needed a dictionary many times to understand the words which he used. He was not hesitant to coin new words also. Once when I met him, I said, this is one part of which I don't agree with. Because I always have felt that judgment should be very simply written so that the consumer of the judgment can understand what is written. But I just want to bring it to you. For me, one of his most important orders, not a judgment, one of his most important orders was an order delivered in June 75. He had just been appointed for 2 years. He was sitting as a vacation judge alone, and an appeal came up before him. An appeal filed by Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister of India, challenging the order setting aside her election. And he refused to grant stay. So, as I sometimes joke, he was responsible for the imposition of emergency. But please remember the other side. He was a junior judge in the Supreme Court. And everybody said that he had been brought to the Supreme Court just after 5 years as a judge in the High Court because of his political leanings, being a communist, etc. But he showed his independence by not granting the stay in that case. So for me, that is one of the finest orders. In passing, I may add that this happened in 75. And after that, it became a practice that all vacation judges sat in benches in the Supreme Court. And coincidentally, in 2017, May or June, I was the first judge in the Supreme Court to sit singly after Justice Krishna Iyer. After many years, because as has been said earlier, his finest judgment is that in Maneka Gandhi's case, where he expanded the interpretation of Article 21 of the Constitution of India. And virtually, you see, our words in Article 21 were in accordance with procedure established by law, as against the due process of law in the US Constitution. But by saying that the procedure established by law would mean a fair and reasonable procedure, he effectively incorporated the concept of the due process into India. And that Maneka Gandhi's judgment reaffirmed the basic structure. And today is the pole star for all other judgments when dealing with human liberties and human rights. Another important judgment was in Sunil Batra versus Delhi administration, where he again expanded the scope of Article 21 and held the right to life and personal liberty guaranteed therein was also available to prisoners. His judgment again emphasized the need for the humane treatment of people who have broken the law, are in jail, but he said they still cannot be deprived of all their human rights. Another very important judgment was in the state of Rajasthan versus Union of India, where he held that the power to impose president rule on a state is subject to judicial review. Prior to that, the courts had always kept their hands off and said, this is not something we can look into. He said that this power cannot be used arbitrarily or for political gain. And if it is used for these purposes, then the courts will interfere. So this is another very, very important judgment. One very, very celebrated judgment is, and shows his innovativeness, is the judgment in Municipal Council of Islam versus Shri Bharti Chand and others, wherein, while interpreting section 133 of the CRPC, he said a committee is bound to provide proper drainage and sanitation. And while interpreting section 133, he expanded the view and said, I read Article 21 in it, and that a public authority has a constitutional duty to provide a healthy and clean environment. He said, I'm a green judge. I hope I'm not only a green judge. In Bachchan Singh's case, again, now look at the field we are dealing with. Human liberty, municipal acts and environment, prison reforms. Now comes Bachchan Singh's case, death penalty. The issue was whether death penalty is constitutional or not. Here the court, including Justice Krishna Iyer, said death only in the rarest of rare cases. So this new formula of rarest of rare was evolved in. See, we may have a view, some people say, as judges, we are humans, what right do we have to take away the life of another human? There is another view that, yes, but once we take oath to uphold the Constitution, we are bound to follow it. And so the death penalty is constitutional, as was told by the artificial intelligence lawyer to Chief Justice Chancellor a few days back. And I'm talking about his humane side of justice. In Jolly George versus the Bank of Kochi, he said that when a man is in debt, he's already suffering. You can't send him to jail because he cannot pay his debt. See, if he cannot pay because he still has the money, you can send him to jail. But if he has no money and he has lost all his money and he's in debt, you can't send him to jail. This was again showed his human side. I could refer to umpteen number of judgments of Justice Krishna Iyer, but this is just a few. I just chose 6, 7 of them, which I feel are important and which go across the spectrum, from civil law to criminal law to constitutional law, environmental law. But what comes out of this judgment is that he was a thinking judge, an innovative judge, a judge not tied down by the rules of procedure, and above all, a judge who treated litigants as human beings and laid great emphasis on being human. Sometimes the judges, we are so overburdened, we forget that the so-called parties, the respondent and the plaintiff, are actually human beings. They're not just parties, they are flesh and blood. And we must try and understand why they have come to. No talk on humane justice, especially in the state of Himachal Pradesh, can be complete without mentioning a judge who, in my opinion, was by far the finest judge I have seen in my 45 years in this legal fraternity. I am referring to none other than Justice Prabodh Dinkar Rao Desai, He was Chief Justice of the High Court of Himachal Pradesh for more than 5 years, from 23rd December 1983 to 13th November 1980. Many of you, especially in the youngsters, may not even have heard of him. But please try and read his judgments, and you'll see what a fine judge he was. The foremost quality of Justice Desai was his fearlessness. The word fair did not exist in his dictionary. So all of us have taken oath. We swear to work to the best of our ability without fear or favor. Affection or ill will. Affection or ill will come later. The first thing is fear. Fear of what? Not fear of the unknown. Fear of the powers that be. Fear of the members of the bar. Fear of my peers. These are all fears. Which are the more fear of my family? These are the fears which make a judge compromise. So we have to act without fear or favor. He was appointed as a judge of the Gujarat High Court when he was only 39 years old. He would have become Chief Justice of India if he had not been fearless. He would have become Chief Justice of India if he had played his cards right. But he did not believe in playing his cards right. He only believed in doing the right things. And he was probably the most humane judge. Justice Krishna Iyer is much lauded and applauded, but even today, when I was in the Supreme Court and I talked to judges, lawyers and judges, even from Madras, from Calcutta, Bombay, or Gujarat, they all remember him with a great deal of respect. And in fact, when I was talking to Justice A.S. Dave, he burst into tears remembering Justice. That was the effect. Recently, Dushan Dave gave a speech, and I spoke to Karan Thakur in an interview. You may or may not agree with what Mr. Dushan Dave said, but he said something at the end that if a case had been taken away like this from Justice Desai's roster, he would have issued contempt notice to the Chief Justice of India. That was his fearlessness. When Justice Desai joined in 83, I had put in 5 years in the practice. When he left, I was a baby at the bar at 5. By the time he left at 10 years, I had become a little more established. And I owe a lot to him. He encouraged all juniors, but I don't know, rightly or wrongly, feel that I was his blue-eyed boy. He was very fond of me. He showed us, all the members of the Himachal Bar, he showed us how law can be used as a tool to alleviate the problems of the town. All of his orders and judgments were tempered by his innate human philosophy. And he could be the most scary judge in court. There were many days I would come back and almost be in tears and say, "Maine dwara court mein liya." But if you went well prepared, you got more relief from him than you got from anybody. From him, we, the members of the bar, learned how the High Court can exercise its powers and be one of the most powerful instruments of change, of social change, acting well within the four corners of the Constitution. So between these two judges, I decided my topic, the humanist side of justice. As members of the legal fraternity, whether we are at the bench or in the bar or even as students, we are bound by the Constitution and the law. Our personal philosophy, whether political, economic, or religious, has no place in legal proceedings. Both lawyers and judges swear to uphold the Constitution and the laws. Therefore, in court, our only Gita, our only Quran, our only Guru Granth Sahib, our only Bible is the Constitution of India and nothing else. And if I have to seek guidance, I'll seek it only in the Constitution and no better. My endeavor in today's lecture is to show that the Constitution of India itself lays down, is structured in such a way that it lays great emphasis on the human aspect of justice. I will attempt to show that the Constitution clearly lays down a path where the courts and the judges must act in a humane and equitable manner. In 45 minutes or 40 minutes, it's not possible to deal with everything, and neither will I attempt to do so. But for me, the heart and soul of the Constitution is encompassed in the preamble. And therefore, I'm going to quote the preamble as a whole. And I quote, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic." I'll exclude the words socialist and secular because today many people are allergic to the same. So we'll just read it as into a sovereign, democratic republic. Because in my view, it makes no difference whether you have the word socialist and secular in them or not, but those two thoughts are there incorporated in the very constitution. That's it. And to secure to all citizens, now please be carefully listen to each one because I'm going to expound on this. Justice, social, economic, and political. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and virtue. Equality of status and opportunity. And to promote amongst all, this is something which is very seldom read, and to promote among them all the unity and integrity of the nation, fraternity assuring the dignity of the individual, and to promote among them all the unity and integrity of the nation. So this is what we promised ourselves. The first promise we made was to ensure and secure justice, social, economic, and political. What is social justice? In my view, social justice is that justice where all citizens, whether rich or poor, educated or uneducated, whether belonging to the higher echelons of society or the marginalized sections of society, untouchables, Dalits, Brahmins, are treated equally. Special social justice envisages that there is no discrimination between people on the basis of societal norms, which would include religious leanings. We also promised, the next promise was economic justice. This means that all citizens are the owners of the natural wealth of the country. I'm aware of the judgment which has come 4 days back, but that does not take away from this thought, because that is what you can take over from private ownership. That judgment deals with what you can take over from private ownership, but what is already vested in the state, that is the natural wealth of the country. In Samaj Parivartan, many years back, was the state of Karnataka, the Supreme Court held that the government holds this natural wealth in trust for the entire city. There can be no economic justice when 70% of the population of this country still lives in dire conditions. There can be no economic justice when 70% of the wealth of the country is concentrated only 5% of the population. Unfortunately, as per one of the latest reports, 40.1% of the nation's wealth is concentrated in only 1% of the. So 1% of the population owns 40%. I am not a communist, and hopefully I am not an urban naxal either. But I do not believe that there can be complete, and I never believe that there can be complete distribution of wealth. But at least there must be an attempt. Even if we are not a socialist state, we are a welfare state at least. Whether we look at Hindu Dharma, or you look at Islam, or you look at Christianity, or you look at Sikhism, there is always that element that we have to give to the poor. Some part of your income must be shared with the people who are not so well. And that is when the Constitution talks of social economic justice. This is not a Therefore, when interpreting laws of this nature, I am strongly of the belief that if judges reread the preamble and read the provisions and try and interpret the provisions by in accordance with the preamble, they will find the right path. Then we come to political justice. Probably this is one of the promises which we have to a large extent achieved. Because one person, one vote has to a large extent been achieved. No doubt that money power and muscle power still play a big hand in elections. But I am very proud of the fact that in our country, elections are by and large free. And therefore, this is one promise I feel, unlike the other two, social justice and economic justice, political justice to some extent, or to a very large extent, has been achieved. While speaking on justice, all three aspects of it, social, economic, and political, I can do no better than to quote from what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said in his speech in the Constituent Assembly on 26 January 49, the day it was. We are going to enter a life of contradictions. In politics, we will have equality, but in social life, we will have inequality. In politics, one man, one vote, and one vote, one value. In our social and economic structure, continue to deny the principles of one man, one vote, and one vote, one value. How long will we continue to live this life of contradictions? How long shall we deny equality in our social and economic? These words said more than 7 decades back hold true even today. Even today, want to talk of intercaste, interreligious marriages. Even intercaste marriages are not readily accepted. We still have so-called honor killings, and we still have mob lynchings. And sadly, untouchability has not been eradicated even today. Therefore, out of the promises made, we may have had to some extent attain political justice, but we are far, far away from attaining economic or social justice. And that is where the courts must play an active role. The next promise we made to ourselves in the preamble, and this, my young friends, please listen carefully. Liberty of thought. Thought. What do you think? Nobody can censor what you think. Nobody can control what you think. So it's the liberty of thought, expression. Belief. Belief is something internal in me. Faith, again, something very internal. And worship, again, something very internal, which is very private. You may, आप हो सकता है कि आप मंदिर जाके भी पूजा कर सकते हो, आप हो सकता है मंदिर ना भी जाओ तब भी पूजा कर सकते हो. It is not necessary for a true Hindu to go to a temple necessarily. And belief can also be an agnostic belief. A belief can also be a thought, or can also be an atheist belief. It's not necessary that all of us should be religious. Some of us may not believe in religion. So it's a matter of thought. We are very proud of our multicultural heritage. We are people who belong to all religions, thoughts, and beliefs have amalgamated into our society. Indian culture is such that we have accepted into our fold believers and non-believers. Indian society has not discriminated against any religion or thought. See, once when I was having a matter and Subramanian Swami was arguing before me, and he said something, this was in Himachal only, and he said that Hinduism accepts even an atheist to be a Hindu. And he showed me certain books and quotations where even an atheist is, as long as you follow the right path, you speak the truth, you are fair to people, you are not dishonest. As you say, it's a way of life. Similarly, other religions also, we talk of Hinduism because we are basically brought up in the society. But other religions also have similar values. Now I'm coming to another aspect. Because when you talk of thought, belief and all, these thoughts will change over time. I have been brought up in a RS March household, but I could start. My mother, to give an example, was brought up in a very strict RS March household, but in the end, she used to go to temples, whereas my grandfather never visited a temple. So beliefs also change with time, and it is very important to question beliefs. It is very, very important, young boys and girls, to young ladies and gentlemen, I should say, not boys and girls, we're all in the law school, to question, to be innovative, to always be inquisitive, to say why is this right and why is this not wrong. New thinkers are born only when they disagree with the old thinking. If you don't think away from what is the past, then no new thoughts will be created. If a person does not ask questions and does not raise issues challenging the old well-established thought, no new thought and philosophy would develop and the horizons of the mind will not expand. Whether it be Buddha, whether it be Mahavir, whether it be Jesus Christ, whether it be Prophet Muhammad, Guru Nanak Dev, Kabir, Raja Rammohan Roy, Swami Dayanand, Rabindranath Tagore, or Sri Aurobindo, they all have deviated from it. They may have kept the essence the same, but from the old learning they have changed and they have said, no, these rituals are right, these are not right. And as I said earlier, in a secular country, every belief does not have to be religious. Even atheists enjoy equal rights under our constitution. Many of our very fine judges have been totally atheists. Just to sort of give you two short examples. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who established the RS March, founder of the RS, he challenged idol worship. Because one night he saw Chua eating the prasad from the temple. So he says, if the idol can't protect itself, why should? Another, you all heard the story of Guru Nanak, who went to Hardwar and he found that the priest was pouring water towards the sun. And he asked him, what are you doing? He said, we're sending water to our forefathers. So he turned his back towards the Ganges and poured water. So he said, somebody said, you fool, what are you doing? He said, I'm watering my fields in the Punjab. So they said, so he said, if you can send water to your forefathers through this tree, why can't I send water? It's a different thought. Unfortunately, today, if these two were alive, they would probably be behind jail. To disagree, to dissent, to question what is well established is the most important part of democracy. The right to dissent is the most important part of it. If a country has to grow in a holistic manner, it does not only have to be economically powerful, it has to be very powerful. It should be so powerful that its citizens should have the right to question and challenge what the powers that be say. Without that right, there is no democracy. Only if there is disagreement, only if there is discussion, only if there is dialogue can we find better ways to run the country. The third promise we made to ourselves is the equality of status and opportunity. Now here comes reverse discrimination. Because you cannot equate apples and oranges. They are not the same. So when you say all people are equal, a rich man can never be placed equal to the poor person. I said this when I retired from the Supreme Court also, which was quoted very often, that our judicial system is geared to help the rich and the poor. If the accused is a rich man, he will keep filing application and going to the Supreme Court. If he is in jail, he will keep filing applications and going to the Supreme Court till one day the Supreme Court will order that take his case out of turn and decide it fast. If he is on bail, he will keep filing applications that the case is never heard and decided. But the poor man will never have the same sort of legal. And therefore, you can't, therefore the courts have to step in and see that equality, actual equality is mentioned. I won't go into it, you're all students of law. Article 14 says there should be equality. Article 15 prohibits discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, etc. Article 16 promises equality of opportunity. Article 25 gives every right the freedom to practice his religion, practice and propagate his or her religion. In fact, I am a strong believer that there has to be positive discrimination in favor of the underprivileged. And that is what the Supreme Court in Janhit Abhiyan has virtually held now, that even reservation on the basis of economic basis is permissible. Lastly, but most importantly, and this somehow I feel is often forgotten, is that we shall promote among all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of. We forget that the preamble says we must promote fraternity. What is fraternity? Fraternity is brotherhood. And brotherhood amongst all. Again, going back to Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and this is what he said about fraternity. And I quote, what does fraternity mean? Fraternity means the sense of common brotherhood of all Indians, of Indians being one people. It is the principle which gives unity and solidarity to social life. Without fraternity, equality and liberty will be no deeper than courts of law. So what he said was, if there is no fraternity, then all this equality, social justice is meaningless. And another important quotation I want to repeat while talking about fraternity, what Pandit Govind Ballabh said. And I quote, I want this synthesis of cultures to go on so that we may have a state in which all will live as brothers and enjoy the fruits of sacrifice of those who gave their all for the achievement of this freedom, fully maintaining and observing and following the principles of equality, liberty, and fraternity. This fraternity is definitely a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. There can be no manner of doubt that democracy is part of the basic structure. And fraternity is an essential part of democracy. And there can be no true democracy if it fails to generate a spirit of brotherhood. Now the question that arises, okay, this is what as Deepak Gupta expounds, this is what the preamble says. How do the courts implement it? The High Courts and the Supreme Court of India, I will call them the constitutional courts, they have very wide powers. And most importantly, they are not only courts of law, they are also courts of equity and justice. They are thus empowered and obliged to work, decide matters not only in accordance with law, but also in accordance with equity. This is how humane justice, according to me, flows from the reading of the Constitution. And I gave some examples of Justice Krishna Iyer in the beginning of his cases. Some were in the little clip, video clip which you saw. See, the Supreme Court has expanded both the Article 14 and Article 21 conjointly in a number of cases. And we have, in Moini Jain's case, right to education in Article 21. In Hussain Ahmed Khatun, right to legal aid. In Sheila Baste, right to speedy trial. In MC Mehta, right to clean environment. In DK Basu, right against illegal detention. In Francis Corole Mullen, the right to human dignity. In Vishaka, right against sexual harassment in a workplace. In Common Cause versus India, the right to die with dignity. and in case, the much celebrated case, Swami case, the right to privacy. So all these are what? These are innovative judgments created by the judges. And they all these judgments show a humane side of the law, how law has been understood, interpreted, and expounded in a manner which, in my view, is totally consistent with the values set out in the prayer. Now I will come to Justice Peeyush. He believed that the scales of justice should never be equal, but they should be weighed in favor of the downtrodden. Since I am a great follower of his, when I was a Chief Justice in Tripura, we had a court building, very beautiful, but there was no decoration in it. So I decided that my wife and I decided that we'll have some murals placed on it. And the murals were being placed, and one day one senior lawyer, Mr. Shankar, they came running and said, this one of these is not depicting very properly. These are what he says under the Constitution is this statue of the Lady of Justice, and she doesn't have a blindfold, and the scales are not even. So I said that has been purposely done. Because in my court, the scale will be always weighted in favor of those, not in favor of those who don't have equal access to it. It's not to that you will decide against the law. Within the four corners of law, you have to decide upon. I have taken an oath to protect uphold the Constitution and the law. So I will not decide something against the law. But if two views are possible, I will take the view which helps the downtrodden. If an interpretation like that is possible, and many times these are possible. So you take that view which helps the marginalized. You must remember, some of you will become judges. You must remember that the rich and powerful can afford Mr. Kapil Sood, others cannot. So there's an imbalance right at the stage of choosing a lawyer. And when we provide legal aid, it is not legal aid to the poor. Most often, it is poor legal aid. In a country where the majority of the population lives in abject poverty, and they don't even have the right to approach the court, just as I would entertain postcards and letters and treat them as. Just before he came as Chief Justice, Mr. Kapil Sood will remember, the then Vice President of India, Justice Ayatollah, former Chief Justice of India, had in a speech said that if somebody sent a postcard to me, I will throw it in the waste paper basket. And the Advocate General told this to Mr. PNR, said this to, reminded Justice Desai that this is what Justice Hidayatullah had said. I still remember distinctly Justice Desai's answer. He said, in my court, if somebody is deprived of his constitutional right, I will take cognizance, whether it be on a postcard or even on or any other method it is wrong into method. I'll tell you 2-3 cases. One in which I was involved. Because you must, this lecture has been very, academic. Now we'll come to the practical part of it, how it is. One old lady, Narda Panyani, her name was, she sent a letter to many people. It was addressed, I still remember, to the President of India, Vice President, Chief Justice of India, Governor of Himachal Pradesh, Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh, and 15-16 number page it was Chief Justice of Himachal Pradesh. In all places, other places, that letter was thrown in the waste paper basket, but not by this. This old woman had written that I had one son. Both my son and daughter-in-law have died. They have left behind 2 children, 5 and 6 years old. I have no money. I am very poor. I don't know how to look after them. Please do something. Now you would say it's not a Chief Justice's job to do this, it's social. Somebody would say. he sent the letter to the district judge, Sirmaur and Nahan. I remember it was Mr. O.P. Sharma who was the district judge. He walked 5 kilometers to this village. And when he went to the village, he found that this old woman was actually penniless woman. And these 2 small children had gone to collect fire. And he sent the report. Mr. Deepak Gupta, then an advocate and now later Chief Justice of the Justice Deepak Gupta, Chief Justice of Andhra High Court, was appointed as amicus in the case. And when he looked into the matter, he found that both the parents had been government servants. And for 1-2 years, nobody from the government had decided to visit this mother and pay her the pension and all the death come retired gratuity. They both died in a fire and so on. So the funds came in. And then I came in, I was a young 30-year-old bachelor, and I was appointed guardian ad litem of these people. And just the Sai would call me every, मेरे को तो कुछ पता नहीं था, he would call me, invest money, he was a Gujarati, invest money in this unit, invest money in this, and get returns. I also got involved. I first got them admitted in a school, government school in Sabatu, but when I saw the condition in the school, I was totally shattered. Then I met Justice P.C. Pandit, who I knew, happened to know in Chandigarh, and these 2 boys were put in DAV model school in Sector 8 in Chandigarh, which is one of the best schools in North India. They stayed in hostel. Well, they've done well in life, but what I want to say is, this was not a charity done to them. This was the legal right to get pension. It was the legal right to get the death from retirement gratuity. Now, if courts don't look at it that way, if judges don't look at it that way, then where will real justice be? I kept in touch with Justice Desai because I hero worshipped him till his death. And we would exchange 3-4 letters every year. But in every letter, he would say, he would ask me, what are those boys doing? Do they need some money? Can I do some help for him? He left all his money to the Pralin Trust. He and his wife had no children. So all of his life savings have gone into a Pralin Trust, which still does a lot of chapter. Another very important case decided by Justice Desai was Jauram versus State of Himachal. In that case, he held that in a hilly area, the right to have a road on which vehicles can move or glide is a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. Today, this may seem very trite law, but in 85 or 84 or 85, when the judgment was read, it was a path-bearing thing. The right to have a path to your house itself was a path-bearing. That is what I said. They were judges, जिन्होंने हट के काम किया. Not they didn't go by the. If we had just gone by the, what is the role of the court to do in this? And he never bothered whether his judgments were upheld by the Supreme Court, criticized or not criticized. He would say, I work according to my conscience. I do what I feel is right. Once he entertained, I think Mr. Sood was probably counsel in that amicus, where parents of a student against ragging, 3 anonymous letters were written, and the parents said our identity should not be disclosed, and he did that. Unfortunately, the judgment was set aside by the Supreme Court on the ground that he should not have maintained anonymity. Today, the Supreme Court itself entertains many such things and unfortunately follows a sealed cover procedure, which I have never understood in a democracy. Another aspect was in a state like Himachal, where in the 50s, a lot of roads were constructed without following the procedure for acquisition. He came in 80s, and when it was argued by the state that limitation, this, that, whatnot, how can the people come after 20, 30 years? There is nothing to it. They have, even if it's not a fundamental right, it's a constitutional right to have property under 300, after 300A. And you cannot take away the property of any person without following the due procedure of law. And he granted compensation to them many, many years later. These were not judgments which were based on any previous precedent. These were innovative. These were judgments which came out of a thinking of how the constitution should work. Similarly, there's another very interesting case that one Amar Singh wrote a letter to him saying that I'm in jail, I've committed an offense, but I want to study. He said I can't send him to a college, but he directed that somebody from a college should go to him once in a fortnight or once a month and teach him all this stuff. And he can work, do work as he can appear as a long distance student or something. Then again, jail reforms, etc. I just quote one line because time is coming to an end. He said, when dealing with prison reforms, he said, and this I think is a very touching line, and I quote, fundamental rights do not flee a prison. So I think all of us, we had no knowledge of labor law till he came. Labor law was something which he really introduced in Himachal Pradesh. He was like a knight in shining armor, fighting for these laborers, taking on the government. He passed a large number of orders directing that this daily practice of daily wage laborers should come to an end and they should be regularized. And finally, not to the full extent, most part of his orders were partially upheld by the Supreme Court in Moldraj case, where a policy was framed how to regularize it. But basically, the heart and soul was from Justice Desai judgments. In all these judgments, I have tried to show you what is the practical aspect. How one was the theoretical, now this is the practical. How they use the principles to practically give relief to the people. It's not that these were the only two judges. Let me be. All judges are working very hard. They do a lot of work, and many of them. But they were these two, both Justice Krishna Iyer and Justice Desai, were different. Or as what I quoted what Javed Akhtar said, वो थोड़ा हट के काम, and they did not hesitate to do something out of the ordinary. And therefore, it's not that they were the only judges. Many other judges have done great work, but in a lecture of 45 minutes, I've concentrated these two to sort of buttress my argument, which is for you to decide, but buttress my argument that the Constitution, especially the preamble, shows a way that we should have a human approach while dealing with justice. As students, young students of law, you also owe a duty to many who are not as lucky as you. You are lucky enough to get an admission into what is one of the finest law colleges in the state. You have your legal aid clinics in the winters, the summer vacations. When you go for the legal aid clinics, I hope there are some legal aid clinics. So legal aid clinics, please ensure that people get, learn some new aspects, whether it is what are the rights of the people. Tell them about that. What they should know, what they, how they can approach the courts. And believe you me, that this effort will never go wasted. Those very people, when they, after a couple of years, decide that I have to go to court for my rights, to vindicate my rights, they will probably come back to you to engage. And in this regard, I'd like to say, there was one man, Durgadas Attri. He was arguing his own case before Justice Desai. And as a litigant, he couldn't, and I was sitting in court and Justice Desai asked me, will you argue his matter? So argued the matter, the man won the case. Not a very complicated, but he won the case and he got a lot of money. In those days, 3-4 lakh was a lot of money. So I still had not started independent practice, and Mr. Kapil Dev says, Munshi Bhagat Singh, he went to the State Bank of Patiala in the secretariat. Because that time there was no online, it was all cash. So this man came back with about 4 lakh rupees and put them on the table and said, Jitne rakhne ho. So I said, I was a Midas, I can't keep any money. Please take. When I discussed it, some people said you could have kept 10% without batting an eyelid. I said, my conscience is not allow. This happened probably in 85 or 86, I mean, I don't remember the year. But from that day till I was elevated in 2004, Mr. Durgadas Attri referred more than 100 cases to me. And I probably made 10 times more money than what he had placed on the table. If I was in Narada Panyali case, and I strongly believe it is her blessings which took Justice Deepak Gupta and me to where we went. So nothing goes, and you always will get what you. When I talked in my lecture, I started with the preamble. Thought, knowledge, belief, according to are more important. Dignity, then also very important, is brotherhood, truth, justice, reasoning. Reasoning is very important. How do you learn rationalism? Reasoning is by challenging the old thought. These are all part of the basic structure of the Constitution. And I always try, whenever I go to students, I try to end with this. In my office, now as an arbitrator, earlier as a judge, I have two things always. On my table is a plaque which contains the preamble of the Constitution. And I can tell you that whenever I had a difficulty in interpreting any provision of law or deciding a matter, I've never had to pray. I reread the preamble. I pray to God to give me strength to interpret and to do my duty as per the Constitution of the laws. But when it comes to interpreting the laws, I don't pray to God to help me. I pray to the Constitution, the preamble to help me. And that is, I have always found it gives an answer. The other which I have is a verse by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, and I will end by quoting from that. Where the mind is without fear, and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by the into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country obey. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. After that address, I'll try to be very crisp, but there are still, with your permission, still three anecdotes that I would specifically make reference to. And these three anecdotes also reflect one thread of thought which was there throughout the entire lecture. And that was penned in the idea of being thinking and innovative. Now, Sir referred to fear, and when he said that there is a fear, he said that the fear is never of the unknown, rather, there is the fear of the known. And in the similar vein, there is a book that has been written by Jiddu Krishnamurthy. And after this lecture, I'm able to contextualize where he got the title from. The title of the book is Freedom from the Known. So, from freedom to the known to going beyond the fear of the known. Our first anecdote. Second, very important point that Sir mentioned, that he stood here and he said that I'm no communist and I'm no urban Naxal. There I'm reminded of Carl Jung, and he says that we all live in a sort of split consciousness. We constantly try to compartmentalize people, label people, and as Sir also mentioned, as parties on either side of the case rather than looking at them as humans. That was the second anecdote. And third, which was again related to the innovative and thinking component, was questioning the beliefs. Now, there I would want to make reference to Martin Heidegger, who's another philosopher. And there are two words which have been, again, as a consequence of my second point, have been put into two different compartments. One word is mythos, and the other is logos. So, in words like biology, psychology, the logy represents the study, and that was scientific rational study which Sir referred to. Now, logy comes from logos. Okay, so there was a compartmentalization which was created between mythos as mythology and logos as rational study. Okay, where Sir is hitting the mark, and which again Martin Heidegger puts it in his book called Introduction of Metaphysics. If I'm not mistaken, it's on either page number 7 or 8. And he says that any religion is a religion only if, in the name of its mythos, it allows the logos to interpret the entire study. So there has to be a convergence between the mythology and the scientific temperament. If I'm not mistaken, that was one thread which flew throughout the entire discourse. Thank you so much, sir, and once again a big round of applause. If not, sir, I have already exceeded my time. Okay. On that very short note, and we have with us Honorable Justice Tarlok Singh Chauhan. He is also currently the acting Chief Justice of the Himachal Pradesh High Court and also the Chancellor of the university. Just the shortest thing that I would say that he has been associated with the university since its inception as a guiding factor, and also he has been vocal whenever the university has strayed a little away. So he has been a guiding beacon in multifarious ways. So, sir, I request you to please deliver the presidential address today.
Honorable Mr. Justice Deepak Gupta, former Judge, Supreme Court of India, Professor Dr. Priti Saxena, the Vice Chancellor of this university, my esteemed brother and sister colleagues, Justice Vivek Singh Thakur and Justice Jyotsana, Rewal, Mr. Justice C.V. Barowalia, the Lokayukta, Himachal Pradesh, Justice P.S. Rana, Chairperson, HP State Human Rights Commission. Both of them have been my esteemed colleagues at one point of time. Dr. S.S. Jatra, Registrar of the University. Mr. Kapil Dev Sood, Senior Advocate. He's also been a mentor, a guide. He still approaches me where I might have gone wayward in some of my judgments. He's the member of the Governing Council of this university. Then we have Mr. Yogesh Jaswal, Director, Madhya Pradesh Judicial Academy. We have the Deputy Director also, and we have the judicial officers. Shri Peeyush Verma, Senior Advocate and the President of the High Court Bar Association. Distinguished guests, dear students, esteemed members of the judiciary and legal fraternity, a warm good afternoon now. It's indeed a privilege to be here today at the Himachal Pradesh National Law University for the esteemed Justice Krishna Iyer Law Lecture Series. This occasion brings together the brightest minds and devoted spirits to celebrate and delve into the rich tapestry of our legal system. This gathering stands as a testament to the profound impact that Justice Krishna Iyer had on Indian jurisprudence and the way he tirelessly worked to ensure justice, liberty, and fairness in every corner of this nation. The Indian Constitution is not merely a document, it is a living organism crafted with the highest ideals of justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity. These ideals, carefully articulated by a Constituent Assembly, are rooted in the philosophy that draws from the deepest wells of Indian thought and global constitutional ideas. Our Constitution serves as India's ground, the fundamental norm or foundation upon which our legal structure is built, reflective of the societal aspirations and democratic ethos. The words of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the principal architect of a constitution, resonate with great force. I quote, political democracy cannot last unless there lies at its base of it social democracy, unquote. This vision of social democracy imbued the constitution with mechanisms to address not only political aspirations of the people, but also their social needs, ensuring that the marginalized and downtrodden and the disenfranchised are equally part of the nation's democratic fabric. Justice Krishna Iyer attempted in all spirit to reach the vision by his work for marginalized communities. As we consider the complex areas of constitutional underpinnings and the role played by Justice Krishna Iyer, it is important to recognize the moral fabric embedded within the Constitution. The vision of our founding fathers was to create a document that would uphold the rights of all citizens, irrespective of their caste, creed, gender, or socio-economic status. It was Jawaharlal Nehru who famously reminded us, I quote, the first task of this assembly is to free India through a new constitution, to feed the starving people, and to clothe the naked masses, and to give every Indian the fullest opportunity to develop himself according to his capacity. Unquote. One of the finest facets of the Constitution of India is its ability to evolve with the times. Article 15, which prohibits discrimination, and Article 16, which speaks of equality of opportunity, were crafted in recognition of the diverse socio-cultural fabric of a nation. Yet true inclusivity requires that we go beyond just words to ensure that our legal and judicial processes are responsive to the needs of every individual. Justice Krishna Iyer's legacy, in particular, challenges us to view the law as an instrument of social change. He believed that, I quote, the law must serve society, not society serve the law, unquote. This philosophy underlines our duty as interpreters of the Constitution to remain vigilant about social realities and ever responsive to the evolving needs of society. Today, more than ever, this concept of constitutional morality guides us in addressing challenges where legal rules alone may be inadequate. Constitutional morality requires adherence to the spirit and purpose of the Constitution, a quality that Ambedkar himself considered vital to democracy. In the words of Dr. Ambedkar, I quote, we must not be content with mere political democracy. We must make our political democracy a social democracy as well, unquote. Constitutional morality goes beyond the letter of the law, promoting tolerance, respect, and inclusion. In recent times, the judiciary has relied on constitutional morality to address issues relating to gender equality, LGBTQ rights, and secularism, reinforcing that a constitution is not static, but a democratic force evolving with society's values. There is no iota of doubt that had Justice Krishna Iyer been with us, he would have only furthered the interest of all the communities and would have worked towards all-encompassing vision. As we move forward, let us remember that the Constitution of India is not only a legal text, but a moral compass, a beacon of democratic values and justice. Its true greatness lies not only in its written word, but in its application to ensure fairness, equity, and dignity for all. Let us, as jurists, lawyers, and citizens, continue to study, question, and interpret this extraordinary document with the same humility and reverence as the forefathers who framed it. As we explore its contours, we carry forward the vision of Justice Krishna Iyer and others who saw law as a force for betterment of humanity, a tool for achieving harmony, justice, and social good. May the spirit of this lecture series inspire each one of you to engage deeply with the law, to question, to challenge, and above all, to serve the ideals enshrined in the Constitution of India. Thank you. Jai.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Professor S.S. Jaswal, Registrar of HPNLU Shimla, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Ayush. Honorable Mr. Justice Tarlok Singh Chauhan, Acting Chief Justice, High Court of Humane Pradesh, and Honorable Chancellor HPNLU Shimla. Honorable Mr. Justice Deepak Gupta, former Judge, Supreme Court of India. Professor Priti Saxena, Honorable Vice Chancellor of our own university. Honorable Mr. Justice Vivek Singh Thakur, Judge, High Court of Humane Pradesh, and Madam Vivek Thakur, present here with us today. Honorable Ms. Justice Jyotsana Rewal, Judge, High Court of Himachal Pradesh. Honorable Mr. Justice C.V. Barowalia, Lokayukta, Himachal Pradesh. Honorable Mr. Justice P.S. Rana, Chairperson, HP State Human Rights Commission. One of the highly regarded and respected Senior Advocate Kapil Dev Sood, Member Governing Council, Himachal Pradesh National University, Shimla. Shri Yogesh Jaswal, Director, HP Judicial Academy, Deputy Director, and other officials from Judicial Director Academy, HPNLU. Shri Peeyush, Senior Advocate, HP High Court, recently got elected for President of the HP Bar Association. Congratulations, Peeyush. Our guest from Degree College, Dhami, present here with us. Other dignitaries present in this hall, teaching non-teaching staff of the university, and dear friends. Himachal Pradesh National University, Shimla has organized today third lecture of HPNLU Dr. Krishna Iyer annual law lecture series. The title of the lecture was The Human Side of Justice. The topic was very well justified and elaborated by Honorable Mr. Justice Deepak Gupta, Chief Guest of this program. Sir, we are honored and privileged to have your presence here with us. It was long pending, we were waiting for you since long, but ultimately you have made our day. And on behalf of the university, we are highly obliged and thankful to you for accepting your invitation and this meeting today. Thank you. We are also honored to have Honorable Mr. Justice Tarlok Singh Chauhan, Chancellor of our university today with us, who has presided over this function. We know, sir, you are always busy, still you have made it a point to be here with us. Thank you very much. I'd like to use this opportunity to thank all Honorable Vice Chancellor for blessing the occasion, and this is just the beginning. We are sure we'll go a long way under your leadership. Thank you very much. I take this opportunity to thank all the honorable judges present from the High Court of Himachal Pradesh with us for sparing their valuable time in this. Thank you. And thanks for all the dignitaries present here with us, sparing their valuable time. And my thanks to all the organizing team of this program. They have worked very hard, and ultimately this program got very successful. Thank you one and all. Finally, my thanks to Dr. Peeyush for comparing this session very so nicely. Thank you one and all.
And our thanks to our very beloved registrar, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Brief announcement just. We will be standing for the national anthem now, but after the national anthem, I request all the dignitaries to please proceed with Registrar Sir and Honorable Vice Chancellor Ma'am for a group photography. Students are requested to be seated here for their attendance. Dr. Beneath will take the attendance. Okay. I request all of you to stand up for the national anthem now.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Dr. Beneath. Beneath.